Interviews with Haunting Gurus.
Well, me minions, I usually have either a pro haunter or a home haunter that I chat with in the Interview with Haunting Guru segment, which seems to make sense. But this time, I'm actually going to have the director of a new movie that just dropped. It's called Epic Home Haunts, and you are the director, Josh, correct?
I am. I directed it, I produced it, I edited it, I shot it.
So the credits were short, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, there's a handful of people. My wife shot a good half the film with me, and then we had two other people come out every once in a while and kind of do pick up work. But other than that, yeah, no, it was basically a husband and wife tag team project.
What's your involvement with home haunters? Is this something you stumbled across, or have you done it in the past, or what's your?
I've never done it personally. I would love to. The problem is when we lived in LA, we didn't have a house. We lived in an apartment, and now we live in San Jose in Northern California, which it's basically impossible to buy a house out here. Everything starts at like $1 million plus. So we don't have a home to do it in. Unfortunately, we can't do it there. But I mean, we've been involved with the haunt community for a long time. I used to run a podcast called Theme Park Talk way back in the day, like 10, 11 years ago. And through that, met a whole bunch of people, including Rick West. And, you know, from there, kind of, he showed us how large the haunt community was. And then maybe 7 years ago, we became friends with Chris and Gina, Hollywood Haunter. And they were sort of our first introduction into the insanity that is home haunting in LA. And from that moment, both my wife and I were like, this is amazing. Why aren't there more? Just anything. Why is this not a known thing? I mean, it's known locally. Like every community has their own little home haunt that they've known for years. But why is this not a bigger deal? And so we kind of started trying to figure out how to promote the community and what it was. And through that, learned just how amazing and awesome and dedicated and hardworking the home haunt community is, and the haunter community in general. And just sort of fell in love with it. And that was about, 5-6 years ago, something like that.
What was it, the 2016 and then the 2017 season?
The plan was always like film 2016, show what these home hunters are doing, and then show the following year to show how it changes and how, you know, it either stays the same, what changes, what morphs. And in the case of, like, say, Rotten Apple, you know, how drastically things change, because they do a new theme every year. But to somebody who's not necessarily in the haunt community saying, oh yeah, we do a new theme every year, it may not click that they literally do something new, new facades, new props, new layout, new everything. So showing 2 separate years, I think was always the plan. And then we were able to actually show some of 2018. We actually had Midsummer Scream from this year in the film. Which I thought was pretty cool. We actually had a few people comment that they were shocked at how relevant the content was, like how it's content from just a few months ago that we had in the film. But we planned that specifically. We planned specific shoots so that we could get it shot and edited and in the film as quickly as possible.
I've watched a couple of other movies on home haunters, and I don't think that they painted us in the best light. I think yours definitely captured the heart, the blood, the sweat, the tears, and you didn't make us look like total psychos. I'm sure they do a good enough job on their own at that, of course, but...
Well, it's funny because that was at least I'd say probably year 2, so 4 years ago. That was, my wife and I had this idea of, like, this community is not really that prominent. How can we show off what these people are doing? Chris and Gina, we helped film Hollywood Haunter. We helped film their ghost town. It was a Grave Rock Gulch. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Chris and Gina. I think that's what it was called.
It was.
We had been watching them on YouTube and everything, and their low light stuff was okay. It wasn't great. Low light's really hard to pull off correctly, well. And they had all this detail, but it wasn't really being shown off in the best possible way. It was good, but it wasn't great. So my wife and I were like, you know what? We just want to help you guys out because you're putting all this hard work into this and show every bit of detail what you guys are actually doing. So we went down and we brought cranes and lights and all kinds of stuff and filmed an entire night, lit everything properly. And that was their little nighttime video that they put out on YouTube. And from that moment on, my wife and I were like, there's more to this community than meets the eye, basically. And started talking to home hunters and learned how dedicated and hardworking they are, and then seeing all these other films that are coming out that don't show them in not bad lights, but not the best light. And we wanted to show them in the best possible way, and really show people what's going into the stuff. And that it's not, the crazy neighbor that you don't want your children to go talk to that's putting these things on. You know what I mean? Like, we wanted to show that these are families who are doing this for their communities to try to better their neighborhoods and their communities around them. And that's really why we did it, basically.
So how did you map out the project?
First, so it took about, I'd say 2.5 years of thinking through it, pre-planning, talking to people, meeting with haunters, and learning as much as we could about the community. Originally, the idea was to shoot it as a 30-minute series, so do 9 episodes at 30 minutes each. And we actually had funding from a producer to do it, and that was what it was going to be. And then the funding sort of fell through, and things were taking a bit longer than they should have. And so my wife and I went, oh, well, I guess, maybe we can't do it. And that was just before year 1 of Midsummer Scream. We decided after day 1 of Midsummer Scream, Midsummer Scream is a convention that really kind of, at least for us, you go into it and it's the middle of summer and you come out of it and everything is Halloween. Like, your mind is nothing but Halloween now. So we came out of day 1 and we were like, you know what? No, screw it. We're making this whether we have funding or not. And just self-funded everything. My credit cards are not happy right now because basically everything was just, we stopped saving, stopped 401ks, stopped everything, put everything on credit cards, and made the film. And so that was 2 years in, we made that decision, and then it was 3 years basically after that the film came out.
How did you choose the haunters that you featured?
So it was very interesting. We actually, Chris and Gina helped a whole lot. They're actually credited as associate producers because they've been with us this whole time, talking with us, helping us, sort of navigate the home haunt community in the best way possible. And they just were introducing us to all kinds of different haunters. We would just talk to them, and we knew we wanted a fairly wide gamut of different types of haunters. So, you've got Rotten Apple, who are kind of the big, over-the-top haunters. They're doing things that are just, mind-blowing, and it's giant, and it's different every year. And not everyone's like that. Most home hunters are not, don't do that. So they were sort of the over-the-top big guys. And we wanted somebody who was new. We didn't want everybody to have been doing this for years and years and years and years. So that was Restless Souls Manor out in Palmdale. When we first started filming with them, I think they were only on their third year. So they were fairly new, but they were still doing it at the level of somebody who'd been doing it for 20 years. And they're just amazing people. Greg and Pam are 2 of the most friendly, welcoming people on the planet. And so are all hunters. That's one thing. I'm going to sidetrack my little story here. That's one thing we noticed, that the haunt community is filled with probably the nicest people you can possibly meet or deal with in life, period. They're the most giving, generous, not only of their time, but their money. people in the world. And I think that's one thing that if you're in the haunt community, you know that, but if you're outside of it, you may not get that. You may just see the weirdos who decorate their house for Halloween. So that was another one of those driving forces for the doc, because it's like, no, these people are freaking awesome, which is why spoiler, at the end of the film, the definition, it says really freaking awesome people. That's how we really felt about these people. They're insanely awesome, and giving and charitable. And so anyway, to go back to what I was saying before, the other two haunts, we had Beware the Dark Realm and Boot Hill. Boot Hill is more of it's a haunt, but it's a yard display. It's basically a walled-in yard display. So it was kind of a yard display taken to the next level. So that's kind of why we went with them. Plus, we knew we were going to have Rick West in the film as one of our experts and kind of our guides through the film to explain and discuss the haunt community. And he helped start Boot Hill, so that linked him with that haunt a little bit better for story reasons. And then Beware the Dark Realm in Santa Clarita, we met them, saw what they did, and the thing that was really, really awesome about them and about everybody is they're such a tight-knit family that's been doing this forever. And he's been doing it. Scott Sibley has been haunting for like 47 years or 42 years or something. It's insane how long they've been doing it. And so they've actually been doing it longer than Rotten Apple has been doing it. So it was just this nice mix of the community, and they're all families. They're all very, tight-knit, these little tight-knit groups of haunters. So that was kind of how we came across those four. Originally, there were 9, because like I said, it was a series. And we talked to a lot of different people. And it wasn't just 9 haunts. It was 9 big haunts and 9 smaller home haunts, because the series was going to be divided into 2 sections. It was going to, have a smaller one at the top, and then you'd carry the story for the longer one through the whole episode. So originally there actually would have been technically 18 home haunts. We had to boil it down to these 4 for the feature film. But yeah, that's pretty much how we figured those guys out.
Out of the haunts, which one did you enjoy the most? Like what style best kind of suited you?
That's a loaded question. This is like a James Corden. What is it? What's his thing he does where you have to eat the terrible food and rate like the movies you've done 1 through 10 for actors? Gosh, I don't know if I could actually choose. They're all so different. That's the thing, is you've got like Boot Hill, which is this, it's in and out, it's a yard display, and they do things a little differently than anybody else, where when you first walk in, for the first half of it, there's no scares. It's basically, atmosphere and the lighting and the projections, and it kind of sucks you in. And then you get to the end, and they force you back the way you came, and everything basically comes to life at that point and scares you out. Which I think is genius. I think it's genius. And it's because it's literally from their driveway up to the front door, just the walk to the front door and back. That's all it is. But it feels giant. It takes you, upwards of 5 minutes or so, 5-6 minutes to actually get through it, because people will go in expecting, instant scares. And so they're huddled together, slowly making their way up through the driveway and up the path to the door. And then by the time they get to the front, we saw this over and over, they'd get to the end, which they built a full mine shaft over the front door, which is a scrim. And if you light the back of it, Glenn, who's one of the Boot Hill haunters, is dressed up in a skeleton cowboy costume, and he appears behind the scrim. So it looks like the rocks are sort of disappearing, and he's showing up. And everyone goes, whoa, oh, that's weird. And then they go, I guess we turn around. And so they turn around. And the moment they turn around, there's an undertaker shack there, and somebody slams the doors open and just drops people to their knees. And then it's just nonstop scares all the way out. And people literally go running out of this thing because they've already been through it. So they thought they knew what to expect. And everything that they had thought was wrong, because there was actually a ton of live actors in there, and they're just being very still and quiet. So I love that. I love that about them for what they do. Restless Souls Manor is probably the most detailed home haunt I've ever been through. Like, Rotten Apple's got a lot of detail, and per the words of Diane from the film, Diane Meyer, they can get carried away with scene detail. Very carried away with scene detail. But Restless Souls Manor takes it to this other level. Like, especially in full-size haunts, right? If you have a bedroom, it's probably a half size of what a real bedroom would be. It's enough for like a little walkway and a twin bed, maybe a table, maybe a small dresser. Restless Souls Manor, it's full-size bedrooms. Everything's a 10 by 10, 11 by 10, full-size beds, bedrooms, dressers. It looks and feels like a real house, but it's their garage or the backyard, patio type of a thing. So their level of detail is nutty. It's insane. And they kind of sort of change their theme every year a little bit. It's one constant story. This is one other thing I really like with them as well. It's one story that takes place over about, I think it's like 200 years. And basically each version of the haunt each year is a different section of that story along that timeline. So if you were to have been going to Restless Souls from the beginning, you would have the full story. So like as an example, this past year in 2018, they did a time machine theme of the manor, of the Restless Souls Manor, where you would go in and you got sent back in time to when an insane doctor had purchased the manor and was doing all these terrible things to people, which is where some of the ghosts in the manor came from. So that was that version of that part of the timeline, and that's how you got to experience it. It's very cool. It's very different, and the detail is insane. It's absolutely insane. Beware the Dark Realm. Let me tell you about Beware the Dark Realm. So it's a castle theme. It's generally always a castle theme, but it's humongous. And they're probably running, I would say, 20 plus actors in their home haunt every night. It is packed full of people. It's insane the amount of production they have going. And the fact that they don't spend hardly any money, if they can get a couple $100 a year, that's pretty good for them to be able to spend on props and paint and things. The level of experience they're creating is insane. It's absolutely insane. And then, of course, Rotten Apple 907 is just it's huge. It's incredibly detailed, but their animatronics and the stuff that they create on like a theme park level, quality level, is insanely impressive, particularly for a home haunt. I mean, the first year that we filmed in 2016, they had created this dragon that probably had a 6 foot, maybe 8 foot wingspan and rose about 8 feet off the ground. But when you first see it, it's folded behind a throne, and then Preston, who was dressed up as the princess in their castle, is sitting on the throne, and there were a couple of buttons. I think there was a forward and a back button under his chair. He'd push the button as people came in, and the dragon would rise up over the throne, wings would open, and it would lunge out at people over him. And then it would hold, and then the head would come down and sort of rest on his shoulder after it did that. He'd kind of pet it for a minute, and then he'd push the other button, and it would go back into position. So all of them are slightly different, but they all do amazing things, slightly different than each other. And there's some things that are, a little bit better than everybody else. But there's no way I could possibly choose one over any of them.
Are they all in the SoCal area?
These four are all in Southern California. Yeah, 3 are in LA, 1's in Orange County. And they're spread out. So anybody who knows anything about LA knows, unlike San Francisco or something where, that city is very tall and small, LA is really wide. So it's really spread out. So like Restless Souls Manor's in Palmdale. Well, Palmdale's up in the high desert. And then you've got Rotten Apple, which is in Burbank. So, that's in like the valley, right? Burbank's the valley. And then you've got Beware the Dark Realm, which is in Santa Clarita, which is in between those two. But the distance from Burbank to Palmdale, that could be an hour and 20 minute drive. Yeah, depending. And then there's one, which is Boot Hill, which is in Irvine, California. So they're out in Orange County. They're about 10 miles or so away from Disneyland, that area. So yeah, they're close-ish. They're close for Southern California, because everyone in Southern California has to drive everywhere to get anywhere, because everything is so spread out. But yeah, they're all in California.
Are you planning on doing any more of these, or does it depend on the success of this movie? This stuff.
I would love to do more of these. I can't say too much about that. I can say we've started talking about it. We've already started talking to haunters, some. And we know we have two directions we would go in if we did any more. But it all hinges on the success of this first film.
How long will it take you to know whether the film has been successful? I mean, I'm sure, is it rentals in just purchasing and renting, or is it actually streaming somewhere too? Is it
right now
or something? Is it?
No, right now as we are recording, what is today? Today is November 8th. It's available on Amazon Prime Video for rent and purchase. Doesn't mean you have to have an Amazon account or like a Prime account. You have to have an Amazon account, but you don't have to have an Amazon Prime account to be able to rent or purchase it. It is, we're preparing to release in the next week or two. It'll be on Google Play, fingers crossed. And then hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be on iTunes and possibly Fandango Now, or another streaming service, potentially DirecTV streaming or a rental and pay service. Streaming won't come online until mid next year. It'll be rental and purchase until then. We have to get in the deal situation with some of the streaming services first, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, hey, look, I've done my part. I actually bought the thing. I didn't ask you for the free screen or try to weasel it out of you, which I've done in the past. But, somebody like me who's done Hauntcast for the last 10 years, I realize how much work goes into a project. And, obviously I want to support it because I'm hoping that, you can do more of these down the road.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. No, it would be amazing to make our money back. My wife would love it if we could make our money back, especially because our first child will be born in about 5 days or so. That's what we're kind of expecting. So it'd be really nice for us to make our money back. But, it's one of those things where it's like we did it, and we did it whether we would make a profit or not. Yeah. And if we could do it,
don't want to lose money on the proposition.
I'd rather not. But at the same time, if I had the money, if this movie made no money or made very little, but I had the money to do it again, I'd probably do it again. Because I feel like there's still more story to tell. This was kind of only scratching the surface of it. And that's really the thing with us, at least with myself and my wife. We base everything we do in story, right? I don't want to just point a camera at someone doing something cool and go, oh, look, isn't that cool? Because, that might be neat for a second. Anybody can do that. I want to tell a story, and I want to find why this thing exists. That's why we went into a little bit of the history of haunting in the film. It's how did this start? And what we discovered as we were making the film is that a lot of this actually started in Southern California. And that's kind of a place that's like weird hub of where stuff kind of kindled and really set the flame for this community. Well,
and speaking of that, I was just going to say I really appreciated your like R.I.P. to Gary Corbin. You threw that thing in, because he was one of the original home haunters out there.
Yes, he was.
And I had him on my show years ago. Really sad to hear that he passed, but yeah, he was so bursting with enthusiasm to talk haunting that the interview ran so long that I couldn't edit the interview. I had to break it into two separate interviews for two different shows.
Oh, man.
I had so much, and it was all gold. And I couldn't just do the half hour, because usually at that point, I was always doing half-hour interviews. That
Sure.
was long. It was either 20 to 30 minutes, and I think I let them go for 40. I think one was 45, the other one was 40. Like after I did chop it down a bit, spliced it up, and tightened it up, and I was still. I had to. I said I can't just throw this other half away. I have to. We have to run it. We'll just throw it in the next show. So I made a joke about that Gary didn't stop talking since the last time that he was on the show, and I just picked up the mic again. It was funny, but it was great, and I just thought that was cool that you worked that in. And yeah, hey, so if you're doing anything else, obviously hit me up and let me know, and I'll feel free to promote it on Facebook, Twitter, and all that. And, we can give you mentions in the show because we do a little news segment in a lot of the shows. So we'll throw in things like that are coming up or that are,
that'd be great.
That are out. So let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll keep you informed as to when, certain platforms start playing the film and things like that. I mean, this is, like I said, this is my wife and I. So it's I go to work all day, I have a full-time job, and then I come home and, I go to the gym, eat dinner, and then try to plug away at getting things done for the film. That's why, a lot of people are like, how come you're not doing this? Or how come you're not promoting this way? And I get comments like that on Facebook, and I'm like, because it's just me. Like, I'm trying. But like as an example, I've got posters coming out of my ears. So, we're trying to figure out a way to start getting these posters out to people. That'll be coming up soon. Hopefully, we just got our shirt stuff figured out. So we have a TeePublic store now. I actually just got my shirt literally just before we started talking. I had this shirt that I ordered, and it's a very nice quality. I'm actually very impressed with TeePublic. Free advertising for them, I guess. But
okay, I plug a lot of shit on the show. I plug all my friends, everybody, whatever.
But yeah, so really quick though, to go back to what you were talking about before with Gary Korb, there's actually a lot of stuff in some of the home haunts that are homages to him. Like if you look at Boot Hill, they have, you can see it in a few shots, they have a floating lantern that's directly from Hallowed Haunting Grounds, from Gary Korb. There's a lot of little things like that.
I saw that somebody had a tombstone.
Yeah, that was actually so
on there, and I said, "Oh man, I got to do that. That set seems awesome."
That tombstone is actually that was from Midsummer Scream 2017. And they put the lantern in there. And what was really nice, actually, at the beginning of Midsummer Scream 2017, Rick West and the rest of the creative team, they do a welcoming thing on stage, and Rick held the lantern that they used at the Hallowed Haunting Grounds for their home haunt during that opening ceremony. So it was really nice. They were very honoring to Gary at that year when he passed away.
Nice. All right. So anything else we need to know?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. Is there anything else we need to know? I guess just kind of keep watch on the social media pages over the next few months. If things go well, we'll definitely be hopefully announcing things, or at least giving hints. As to.
Yeah, so basically, if you guys will rent and or buy it, do both. Rent and buy it.
Hey, that's a great idea.
Rent to own.
Well, and it is coming out. So the other thing I want to say about
rent a center.
Exactly. You rent it and then you buy it. The one thing I will say about Amazon Prime that I've actually got a few complaints about, it's only available in the US and the UK currently. It's not available in Canada or Australia or anywhere else. Hopefully Google Play will remedy that. I know iTunes will remedy that. So if you can't watch it, then you will be able to soon. The other thing I will mention that's a little weird about Amazon Prime Video is that if you're on an iOS device like Apple TV or an iPhone and you just open up the Prime Video app, we will not show up in it because of the fact that only is showing you things that are streaming on Amazon Prime, not for rent or purchase. So if you go to Amazon.com, type in Epic Home Haunts, you can rent it, and then you can watch it on your Apple TV or your iOS device.
I learned that. Yes, it didn't show up after I jumped on my computer, bought the video. Then it would appear because I was searching for it, and it wouldn't come up through the just the normal search through that app on Apple TV. But once I added and purchased the thing through the browser, then all of a sudden it pops up. So
right. Yeah, I think that's just a little bit of a corporate backlash between Apple and Amazon.
All these kids don't play nice together.
No, they do not. So once it's in iTunes, it'll be much easier to purchase on an Apple device. That's for sure.
All right.
And side note, when it is in iTunes and possibly Google Play, but for sure when it's in iTunes, the film will be available in 4K. Because the entire film was shot in 4K, but Amazon Prime Video only allows us to do HD. So we do have an entire 4K version of the film, and it looks amazing. So there is that.
All right. Well, like I say, hit me up when new things come online, like iTunes and whatnot. And if everybody supports and does their job to help bring some money in for that video for you, then maybe we'll see more. So that's
the plan.
Incentive, guys.
That's the plan. We've got an internal number. If we hit that internal number, it's instantly a go. And we're already planning as if we're gonna hit that number. So, we effectively could be filming for some project having to do with Epic Home Haunts. I can't say what exactly. As early as like March, April, June-ish time of next year.
Awesome. All right. Well, until next video.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we are posting stuff on YouTube, so we do have a YouTube channel, and I have a bunch of extra footage we're making little videos of. We're actually going to be posting a lot of full, I guess you call it VR, it's spherical video, full 360-degree VR video of all these home haunts. So you can actually go inside and look around and see what they actually look like. Those will be coming online just slowly over the next, say, 6 to 8 weeks.
And what is the YouTube channel?
So it's just Epic Home Haunts. If you just search for it, it's Epic Home Haunts. We don't have enough subscribers to get a vanity URL. We need 1,000 subscribers in order to do that, so we're not there yet.
Got it.
So the username is like user/900 characters. But if you search Epic Home Haunts, it'll show up. And then all of our other social media is just at Epic Home Haunts on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything else.
All right, Josh. Cheers, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going now. Heaven help you.
Please like and follow the podcast. Stalk us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Links in the description. And help us by sharing Hauntcast with all your haunted Halloween brethren. Until next time, stay scary.